I'm Elizabeth Hartley, owner and president of Scholarship Gold Consulting. I spent 20 years trying to bring some sanity and strategy to the college-bound process. And today we're going to be talking about the top 10 ways that you can assist your student in securing the best scholarships and college admissions and make it an affordable and positive experience for their college journey. So let's get started. I'm going to share my screen. And we're going to go through some really important details today. Just a little background. I have been in this world for a very long time. I started off as a recipient of scholarships that were really life-changing for me. I won multiple full scholarships for college, for grad school. Scholarships also paid for a winter in Hawaii and a summer on the Outer Banks and a year in England. And so I've had all these adventures through this process of scholarships, which is really what fuels my enthusiasm for this, because it's not only about money, it's about unlocking opportunities that can really be life-changing for a student. I'm also an author and columnist on things related to college and scholarship. I also help administer and judge for a lot of scholarships. So I know what the judges are asking for and why we're asking these, what we're trying to find out about the student with these questions. So I'm always happy to help students with that through interview preparation and just kind of informed preparation for any kind of interview that they might have. But also I'm a mom. I've gone through it 5 times ourselves now. We've got 3 what we call natural kids, 2 supernatural kids that we took guardianship of later in life, and have gone through the whole process with them. And we found the right fit and the best affordable fit for all of them through the process that I'm going to show you. So they've gone to Yale, Dartmouth, Michigan State, the College of Charleston, but did the honors college version, which is really cool. And then the youngest just graduated from Duke. So we've done public, private, big, little, the whole thing. And it's not about brand name, it's about fit and affordability. And we're grateful that that worked out so well in our case. When it comes to admissions and scholarships, there are 4,000 schools in the country. And so the process is the same, but what it takes to have the outcomes you want at each school varies according to the school and what their typical freshman profile looks like. So the process as far as admissions and everything is pretty predictable, but the selectivity and what they're looking for in a student can vary widely. So the first things I want you to know is, well, how do I know what it would take for most kids to have access to this school or that school? There's 2 ways that you can do that. Collegeboard.org has a great site where you can just look up a lot of information about a school. But also there's a site that you may not have run across before called the College Navigator. It's done by the National Center for Education Statistics. It's not a site you would ever run across by accident because it has no ads. You just have to know that it's there. So I'm going to pivot to that really quickly. And it's going to look like this, nces.ed.gov. And like I said, you can see there's no ads or anything on it. So in this case, let's say a child is interested in Clemson University. So we're going to type in the name Clemson here, hit show results. And when it pops up, you'll see that it has just very standardized kind of tabs of information. You can see it's a public school of South Carolina. You can go to their website. You can see the size of the undergraduate population. So that's the 18 to 22-year-olds typically trying to get their bachelor's degree, 16-to-1 student faculty ratio, which is really, really nice and low, especially for a state school. A lot of state schools have higher ones, like 30 or 35-to-1. It's going to be harder to get personal attention at a school like that. Smaller is better. I think NC State and Chapel Hill are around 13 or 14-to-1. So that's a great, great range for a public school. Here you can find little drop-down tabs of everything. But in this case, if a student's just interested in getting admitted to Clemson, let's find out what that's about. Only 62% are given admission or offered admission. Chapel Hill, it's 25%. So when you see super low numbers, you can have all the criteria, meet all the criteria of someone who gets in and still not get in. So there's many factors at play, not just test scores and GPA, but the higher the percentage, the little bit more comfort level you can have in feeling a more confident fit. Here's where you can come and see the SAT or ACT scores. This is the middle 50% of people who are offered admission, 27 to 32. 1210 to 1390. So that gives you an idea. Anything above that means that the higher 25% had scores higher than that. Also, 25% get in with scores lower than that. But in many cases, those opportunities are offered to athletes who are bringing something else to the table, even if it's not as strong a test score. So this is one of the first things you can look at to see, well, what kind of things are we looking at? And then you can also come here and see, well, what happens once they're there? This is an outstanding number that 94% of freshmen come back to be sophomores. That retention rate is very, very important. Try to look for a school that has at least, I would say personally, 80% minimum. Anything less than that, and I get a little concerned. 85% stay to get their degree from there. Really, everybody's out between 4.5 and 6 years, but 2/3 of them are out in 4 years. And I'm okay with that because this is a school strong in engineering, and engineering plans often take 5 years. So that accounts for the step up. If you're looking at a school that doesn't have engineering, then try and get that 4-year and 6-year mark as close to each other as possible. So there's lots of good information on here. So do your homework first. And again, you can find some similar information on College Board. They don't have those retention rates, which is why I like the College Navigator. So just know, like I showed you that spread, there's a difference between getting in, like if someone's just kind of in the mid range of their SAT or ACT scores. But if you want maybe special opportunities, scholarships, that kind of stuff, or really just to increase your chances of getting in, higher is better. And the real scholarships go to the people who are in that top 25% that I just showed you. How does money work when it comes to college? Because a lot of schools now, private schools, are looking at 70 and 80,000 a year sticker price. Public universities in state are claiming to be around 18 to 22 a year in sticker price, and we want to try and not pay sticker price. Nobody wants those numbers. So just for you to know where the money can come from, then you can position how you want to approach it. So the 4 sources of money to get a sticker price down to a net price, that's what we like to talk about. Your net price is the price you really pay after these other discounts have been applied. So you can get it through a grant, which is based on family finances, typically. So grants are not taxable. Grants do not have to be repaid. They are not loans. They can come from the government, from the state. They can come from the university itself, and they can come from private institutional or foundations as well. But that's aid for college based on financial position. Scholarships are free money. You don't have to pay back, but it's based on the talent and the merits of the student. So it could be strong grades, GPA, class rank, test scores, but also music, dance, athletic abilities, anything that has to do with the student's talents and own abilities that garners the money. We call that a scholarship. Again, don't have to pay it back. I love focusing on a blend of those two before as a way of getting a lower price point for college. The things that we like about these is that when you get grants or scholarships from the college itself, it's typical, I would say 95% of the time, that the scholarships will renew every year as long as the student keeps up their GPA. So usually around A's and B's. Grants will typically renew as long as the financial picture of the family didn't just dramatically increase. So we like the money that keeps on giving so that you know your child can be there for the duration. Work study is just a little on-campus job the student can have, either just to create their own spending money or to go towards their tuition. It's not going to be a ton. Their kid cannot work and earn $20,000 for school. It's typically more around the $3,000 to max $5,000 a year, but it can be a good way for the student to have a little investment of their own without resorting to loans. Then there are the federal loans, but there's also private, like bank loans, which we definitely don't want to do if at all possible. Federal loans we try and avoid as well. I just love the idea of students coming out equipped with an education, but not saddled with loans. So if we work the other 3 elements right, we should be able to, in most cases, avoid loans. This is just a little visual I created that represents something that I want you guys to be aware of. If you're a very strong student, like I'm just going to ballpark SAT over 1400, 1450, 33 ACT, and modest income of the family, meaning by the colleges and the government's definition, one child in college will say 100 to 120,000 a year. and income, then they might be equipped to get into those super elite top tier schools by somebody's measure. Um, they don't do scholarships, but they will be vastly generous, like unbelievably generous with financial aid. The reason for that is because those schools are charities and they have to give away a certain percentage. I think it's 5% of their endowment in order to stay qualified as a charity and not have to pay taxes. So, how do you do that? Well, if you're Harvard and you're sitting on, I think last time I checked, $34.5 billion in an endowment, you have to give away 5% of that. How do you do that? You jack the price, then you discount it down for everybody, and you can say, look, government, this is what we just gave away. The average student at Harvard does not pay any tuition, and a lot of them have a big credit going towards their room and board. If you have multiple kids in college, then you can have 200 and 240,000 in income and get that same benefit. If you have 3 kids in college, 300 to 360. It gets exponentially more generous with those top tier schools the more kids you have in college at the same time. And we had a number of kids of our own in college at the same time. So that's why the Yale, Duke, and Dartmouth options ended up being so much more affordable than sending our kids to Clemson. And I love Clemson, but for us, those were the better fit. So just know the top schools ranked by Forbes or US News and World Report don't typically do merit, but they will be very generous with aid. Private schools that are not in that top ranking will be generous with need and merit. Not quite as generous with need, but you can do a blend of both types of funds. So we're talking like Georgetown is in the top 50, no merit scholarships. George Washington is in the top 100, still a great school, but will give lots and lots of scholarships and financial need. Same with Boston College versus Boston University. So once it crosses over that 50, 60 ranking, we see scholarships become more a typical part of the picture. And then that same student could get into an in-state public university, but maybe have access to the special opportunities of the Honors College. The Honors College is a smaller community of really top scholars within the larger state school. And in that smaller honors college, they try and duplicate a lot of the perks that you would think of as a smaller private school. So you get very close advising, specialized housing, or where it's just for the honors college students. So you have kind of quiet hours. You get guaranteed housing all 4 years. You get to register first for your classes every year, so you make sure you get the schedule you want. So there's a lot of benefits built into an honors college, and the financial benefit of having the experience in many cases of a high demand private school, but you also have the price point and the variety and the energy of a state school. It's really kind of the best of both worlds. Our son went to the honors college at the College of Charleston, and we had people kind of wrinkle their nose and go, College of Charleston, I mean, isn't that kind of a party school? There are well hydrated children at every college, I promise you. It was really more about how he chose to make his experience there, and had a phenomenal experience. Could not have been happier with that. So, and he's in medical school now, so it served him well. That same student, who's a very strong student, but if the family income is substantially higher, even if you got into one of those schools, do you really want to pay top dollar? Because remember, there's no scholarships, but they will only be generous with financial aid. And if you don't qualify, you could be looking at a big price tag. Only you can decide if it's worth it. Whereas that same student, if they were able to get into a Vanderbilt or a Duke or something like that, then they could go to a lot of other schools and get merit scholarships and pay a small amount, or state schools with honors college. What if you just got a solid, hardworking kid who's not like the super, super high flyer, but just definitely a successful student and hard worker, and definitely going to be a good college student? Then please, let's not go for the single digit admission schools, the ones who only offer 6% admission. Let's kind of leave that. Here, when I say keep calm, it depends on the scholarships. Again, you want to pick schools where, if your child has a 30 ACT and you find a school whose average ACT is a 26, then that student's going to get probably some good scholarship money, because he's going to help pull up that school's average ACT. But if he's looking at a school where the average kid coming in has a 30, then he's just kind of right there in the crowd with everybody else, and you may not see as much scholarship money. So it's about being an outlier to a school's typical incoming freshman. When you can be on the higher end, they're going to give you money. And then also they can look at state schools, but maybe if the honors college isn't an option yet, do really well, work hard, and then try and apply to the honors college next year. I only know of one public university that doesn't allow you to apply once you're there, and that's East Carolina. If a student's really struggled in high school, or there's some other bumps in the road, or they struggle with test taking, then that's fine. The magic blank slate, clean slate, is to do even 2 semesters, 1 year or 2 years at a technical school, community college, or even just a smaller 4-year public university that has really accessible admissions, and then do that for 1 or 2 years. And then when you go to transfer, they don't ask for the high school transcript. They don't ask for SATs. They're just going to look at your grades where you were already. So that's a clean, fresh start. So in this case, know your child's kind of find your child's abilities and kind of profile, find your financial position, and then pick the strategy that's right for you. If you're like, we're not going to get financial aid, so let's look at, but we don't want to overpay for college. So let's look at schools where you can get scholarships, or where you can maybe get honors college, that sort of thing. So I just hope this illustrates it a little bit better. This is something that I was really, really excited to discover, because colleges do not advertise that they have this. It's a form that they have to fill out for the government that reveals, of all the criteria they can consider for an incoming freshman applicant, what are the things that they choose to emphasize the most or de-emphasize the most. And there's about 20 different factors, and each college can prioritize these factors as they want. And so it's really nice to access this for each school and see, well, for them, is it important that I have built a connection or relationship with them? For these people, do they want an interview? For these people, how much do they favor the essay, the strength of the essay? Do they consider class rank, or do they not consider class rank? So this is called the common data set. You're not going to find it by navigating around on their website, but if you Google it or do an internet search, whatever your browser is, then you'll be able to tell. So let's do here. So I'm going to go, I just typed in common data set Chapel Hill, because we were talking about Chapel Hill. I could go, it's usually buried in the Office of Institutional Research and Advancement. So I could look there, or I could just pull up the PDF. The PDF is going to look pretty much the same for all schools. And you can see it's just a form they fill out. And it's in sections A, then B, then C. And you can see each question has a letter and a number that goes through it. You can see what kind of calendar year they have, what kind of degrees they offer. Some good just data for people who enjoy data. But what I want to look at is in the section that's coming up, C, first time, first year freshman. So there's a lot of good information here. But here on C5, sometimes schools will say, Chapel Hill doesn't, but they'll say, okay, here's what we publicize that we want, and here's what we really want deep down. So sometimes they'll have a different set of criteria that they would really prefer. Some schools will say, we say 2, but we'd really like 3 foreign languages, something like that. This is the one that I really wanted you guys to see. This is the grid where they rank what is most important to them. So you can see how they rank things being very important, considered, and not considered. So take a minute and just take a quick peek at that and see what kind of value they placed on these different criteria. So you can see that they don't weigh how much interest the applicant has demonstrated in them, whereas some schools like American University, this is one of their top factors. If you haven't visited the campus and followed them on social media and been in contact with the admissions rep and opened their emails, if you haven't done that, very unlikely you're going to get in. But at this school, they don't measure that. So it's really kind of interesting to see what they place the most value on and then kind of lean into that. Some schools have, like Davidson College, great school, but it places a much higher value on volunteer work than GPA and test scores. So it's interesting. So when you know what they're focusing on most, you can kind of just be aware of that when you're writing your essays and deciding, do I do a tour of this school or that school? Who's going to care if I'm there or not? So this is a really good resource to use. Like I said, there's about 50 to 60 schools that will have a very low net price for students that have demonstrated need. It's just getting in that makes the difference. And we talked about that a minute ago. There are merit scholarships. Merit scholarships that we were talking about are based, and we're not talking athletic scholarships are a form of merit scholarships, just as music and dance. But in this case, I'm talking about academic merit. You just need to know of all the schools you're considering, how each school decides to handle access to merit scholarships. If they're in the top 50 or 60, they may not have them. But you can say, they might say, we automatically consider you just based on your application. Don't even worry about it. Some scholarships will require nomination from the counselor, like the Moorhead Cane to Chapel Hill, the Park Scholarship to NC State, Belt Scholarship to Davidson, the Jefferson Scholarship to UVA. Your school counselor has to nominate you. If you're homeschooled, then you can typically self-nominate. There are some merit scholarships you can self-nominate for without a counselor. Moorhead Cane allows students to self-nominate if they're from North Carolina. Outside of North Carolina, I don't believe you can. The Johnson Scholarship is a full ride to Washington and Lee. The Robertson Scholarship is a full ride to Duke or UNC. So those are some where you just go on their website, follow the timeline, and check all the boxes of the things that they need. You can also get scholarships from independent sources through websites like scholarships.com. They track scholarships from Toyota and Best Buy and Rotary clubs and Lions clubs and different foundations. And you fill out a form. It's kind of a personal profile. And then the software, the site will match you to colleges or scholarships that might be a fit. They don't guarantee anything, but at least they weed out the ones that are not a fit for you, and then you can take it from there. So on each school, you can just go on their website and type in scholarships in their search window, and it will tell you what scholarships they have and how you're considered for it. So please print that out, make a note, so you know for each school what's it going to take. So how can you help your child optimize admissions and scholarships? First of all, make sure they know it doesn't matter if you're, a great soccer player, you're still a student athlete. So regardless, grades are going to be king. They need to focus on getting good grades, but without playing it safe. The colleges will typically put rigor of secondary school record is the name of it on that little grid I showed you. They'll usually put that as one of the most important things to look at, meaning for what the child had access to, did they challenge themselves? Colleges will say they'd rather see a B in an AP than an A in an honors. They'd rather see a B in an honors than an A in a regular. Then they always make the same corny joke, but really we'd like to see an A in an AP, and that makes us happy. But if a student can make feels like they can at least make a B in a higher level class, encourage the high level class. Make sure that time management is something else that they're learning. Using a planner is my old school favorite way to do it. But they need to have a system that works with them, not just trying to remember everything in their head, which a lot of kids still do. Encourage them to be interesting and authentic in their interest. It is not accurate that colleges want well-rounded students. They want a well-rounded student body of kids who love what they do. So they want that fabulous oboe player and that amazing chemistry student and that wonderful student government representative. They want kids who love what they do, have really expressed a genuine scholarly desire to be great at that. And then you put those together and you have a mind-blowing campus. But if you just have a campus full of dabblers who tried to be well-rounded and they joined too many clubs and played 3 different sports and all of that, you're just going to have a campus full of burned out and tired kids. And there's no scholarship for being tired. I have looked. Also, just know as you're working through schools, connect and talk about this with your student. Is it okay? For this school, the goal is just get in, because the way they do the money is going to work out, because we've done something called the net price calculator, which you can do on any school, and it will tell you based on your finances, just on financial aid alone, what that would get the price down to. So you can say, if you can get into that school, Davidson, we've already run the net price calculator and we know the money would be fine without even additional scholarships. So other families might say, we're not going to ever get financial aid because we won the lottery last year, but scholarships would still be nice. So look at the schools that will do scholarships. I'm a big fan of students using community service to use their, what I call superpowers, to to the benefit of others. It's just a good, mature growth experience for them to invest themselves in the benefit of others, but also colleges just appreciate that as a student's heart. So again, it's not about volume of hours. It's about what am I good at? What do I care about? How can I put those two things together and do something that makes a difference? Encourage them to approach it that way. Do build strong SAT and ACTs to the best of their ability, and consider their learning style. If they're a kid that's like, just give me a book and leave me alone, I'll just work through it, it's going to be fine. Other kids prefer a more dynamic, but probably self-paced way. So I've got some sites, Princeton Review. I have access to their deluxe year-long self-paced SAT and ACT package. Instead of $499 like it is on their website, I can get it for you for $199 because I've done some work with them before. So email me if you want that, but it's video based and practice based. So the student does a section of questions and then it pops up and does little 1 to 2 minute video corrections on the ones that they miss. Then it makes recommendations on what to do from there. So it's kind of an interactive thing that's really good for kids who just want to cut to the chase and get some practice. I also have access to another program called ePrep where I can get a pretty good discount on their stuff as well. Very similar concept. If you want more information, I can send that to you. But the point is, figure out what they're going to respond to most and try and tailor to that. I do have a list of great tutors kind of around the country that I've been impressed with. I don't have any kind of relationship or incentive with them to refer them. But if you feel like your student would really benefit most from a good tutor, let me know. I usually say, let's try one of the less expensive and more flexible things first, like an ePrep or Princeton Review or books or something like that. See how much improvement the student can generate on their own, and then save the tutor for maybe the real problem spots that need some additional attention. But just be aware, not all kids prep and learn the same. Do tour colleges early and build a diverse list. Find out about each school's scholarships, either while you're there or online. Take a look at the common data set and try and cast the net wide. Don't only apply to state schools. Don't only apply to private schools. Have 2 or 3 in-state public universities, some private schools where the student's likely to get scholarships, maybe a few reach schools where if they get in, the money would be great. Have a whole big list, and then you can decide where you're going to go later, where they're going to go later. That decision's made May 1st of the senior year, no later than May 1st. If they're going to have interviews for admissions or scholarships, please get them some help and some practice with someone who knows what they're doing. And I'm not the only person. I do have a list of questions that they need to prepare for, how they need to approach it and that sort of thing, but it doesn't have to be me. I do have a class on that, but people who've done a lot of hiring, even attorneys, maybe people who are affiliated with the university in the past, but get them practice interviewing. Practicing with the parent does not typically go well. It's just a weird dynamic in that set. And even with my own kids, I couldn't be the one to help them practice, even though this is what I do. So try and not be the parent doing the interviewing. Do create meaningful summers. Our recipe is what's something enriching for them, like a pre-college camp at a university. And you can do pre-college camps, Clemson, pre-college camps, NC State, or you can do pre-college camps medicine, pre-college camps veterinary, pre-college camps law. And they're usually just about a week long, typically between $900 and $1,200 for the week, but they do typically have financial aid, and that includes them living in the dorm and eating in the cafeteria and that sort of things. There are some very high-priced alternatives, but that does not impress the colleges. I'm a bigger fan of just the programs offered by the university themselves. So something for them, something just for fun, something for others, some element of a volunteer project over the summer, or some kind of commitment, and then hopefully read 2 good books. You'd be surprised at how many schools are asking, what's a book you read that you like so much you wish was required reading for your friends? What's a book you read that changed your outlook on the world? What's a book you read? And so we want them to have books that weren't just required reading. So something for them, something for fun, something for others, 2 good books is the recipe we used for every summer for all of our kids. Do start early. You can start filling out the common application, which is the main application for most schools that we work with. And so they can go ahead and start that as early as ninth grade. There's a tab. You can go to commonapp.org. There's a tab, there's 5 tabs, and one of them says Common App. That's what you can go ahead and get familiar with, start filling stuff in, and it'll just save it and move that information from one year to the next as new years come live. But it's a good way to get comfortable with it, see what they're asking, go ahead and populate it, and kind of see what you're working towards and get over that learning curve. You cannot break it, you cannot mess it up, and you will not accidentally apply to college, I promise you. And then the senior year, you do part 2 essentially of the Common App, which is the information in a tab called My Colleges, and those are the extra questions that only the colleges will see when the student applies. So all the colleges will see the main Common App tab, and then they'll see the questions that just that college asked of that student. So go ahead and do the main Common App tab at any point, and it'll just roll over year to year. But especially do that the junior year. I'm a big fan. Also go ahead and in the junior spring and summer, write the main Common App essay. It's about 650 words. I have classes for that. It needs to be compelling, interesting, personal, something that they haven't read before. And that can be a game changer as far as admissions goes. I've seen it happen over and over and over again. But they can go and do their essay and their Common App before the hectic season of the fall of the senior year hits. And the more we can kind of smooth out the panic, the saner it's going to be. And then please just don't escalate their stress with only talking about college and putting pressure on them. They've got enough pressure. They understand that. Let's find some other ways for you guys to be on the same page without talking it to death. Because if they feel like every time that you're with them, you're just going to talk about college, they're going to just start staying in the room. So we want to have a way of being transparent about the process, but without adding to their stress. And I have an idea on that. So this is my version. It took me years to come up with this. You can't tell from the scale on the wall, but this is a giant poster. It's huge. But every student, I say for junior and senior year, you need a timeline and you need a task list. And I used to do a variety of ways, and this is what I came up with. I had about 200 printed. So if you need one, I've got one that's laminated, so you can use a wet erase marker on it. Dry erase smudges, but wet erase will stay there until you take it off with a towel. But I like this so that we have a timeline that can just be up on the wall so everybody can see it, that tracks SAT and ACT dates, AP exams, college tours, application dates, scholarship deadlines. When are you going to hear back? Interview dates, anything related to college, financial aid deadlines, all of that. I love having that here. And I respond better to color. So I like hard deadlines in red. So let's say Chapel Hill's October 15th, but I don't want to wait till October 15th to submit my application because the system always crashes and then there's tears because everybody's applying that day. So I want the October 15th date in red to remind me of what the real deadline is, but then I'll put my version in blue of October 10th. That's the day I want to do my application. So have the real one and then my own personal goal of getting those applications in blue, and maybe anything to do with financial aid and scholarships in green. And then when you're going to hear back dates in purple, something like that. So you can get wet erase markers from Walmart and Amazon and that sort of thing. So that's one thing, is to have a timeline. I like using this for junior and senior year, but especially senior year. So I would start it in August. Then for each school, you need a checklist, and you can't really see here, that says what's the college, what's the deadline, who's your contact, did you visit, are they on the Common App? And then it has a little checklist for, did you send in your applications? Did you send your transcripts? Did you send your test scores? Did you confirm your recommendations? Did you fill out financial aid? Did you apply for scholarships? Did you confirm that your file is complete? And then were you accepted? Yes, no. And if any one of those things is not complete, it can mean that nobody's looking at your file. So a student might think that their file's being considered, but they don't realize that they didn't remember that they never sent their test scores from SAT or ACT. So having a task list is also important. So for me, I'm just really visual. I like it big on the wall so the student tracks it. And if the parents want to see how they're coming, they can see the check boxes and all that. And the student can just say, look, I know you want to know how I'm doing. I don't want to talk about it all the time. You can just, I promise if I've done it, it's checked off, it's on the wall. Feel free to look at it. And we can just maybe talk on Sunday afternoons. But there needs to be some transparent, visible way of seeing this. I like this better than just a standard spreadsheet that you have to pull up on a computer. Um, so like I said, I did this, but if you want to create your own version, like maybe using a calendar, just a flip calendar that's big and on the wall for the dates, and then make a poster board with these little blocks at the bottom beside it with all the check boxes, absolutely do that. Um, if you want one of these from me, let me know, and I'll let you know how that works and I can send it to you. But timeline and task list that keeps everybody looped in is hugely important to maintain relationship and avoid stress with your student. Um, Encourage and support right now. Don't worry about the money. Let's just help them find the kind of schools that fit. Help your student be as successful as possible in high school, but within their abilities. And please don't compare them to one of their siblings or anything. We're all gifted differently. So just applaud and encourage them to use their superpowers, and not feel like they're deficient because they're not the physics kid or they're not the writer or something like that. Encourage them to have their own specific interest and pursue them. Again, it's that depth versus breadth. Tour a lot of schools, get a nice variety. Please be careful of brand worship. Oh, they have to go to this school because that's where all the opportunities are. No, people can shine and thrive in any kind of school. It's about the fit. So I'm not really buying into the brand worship. Remind them that they need to talk with you to help you give them the resources they need to do well in school and on their standardized test, and just keep a balance. Sometimes I remember now, and I'm 56, I was the youngest of 5 kids, and I still clearly remember my junior year of high school. Out of the blue, my mom just showed up and checked me out of school for no reason. And she took me to lunch and we went to see a movie. And that meant the world to me. She said, "You've been working hard. I can see you're stressed. Let's just have a girl day." And that meant more to me than just about any other event in high school for her to do that. So, just remember to connect, and they're going to be fine. They're going to go to college, but your relationship is going to sustain the rest of your life. So, just be aware of that. Make sure too, as a parent, that you talk to your child about partnering with them, that you're going to work with them to have the financial means as much as possible to support their school, but they need to help the cause by trying to position as much as they can through the merit opportunities. This is just a little timeline of you do your applications, file for financial aid in October. Students start getting interviews for scholarships in January, February. You get the final offer letter in March, which just says, here's our sticker price. Here's all the discounts, grants, scholarships, whatever we're going to offer you. Here's your net price. If it's a private school, you can appeal that by just communicating with them and saying, here's why we love the school, but here's why that number is just not quite working. Can we engage? Let me give you a little bit more information. And you have to trust that if they know more, they will do more if they can. Private schools have a lot more flexibility than public schools, just so you know. And May 1st is the deadline for a student to make their commitment to a school. A different school, and a school can come back in July if they want to and try and convince a student, hey, we had some extra scholarship money come available. If you'd like it, we'd love for you to move your enrollment over to us for the fall. So the school can still come back, but the deadline for a student to say yes to somebody is May 1st. And if you want more information, my email is up at the top. I do all of my workshops right now because it's still post-pandemic with Zoom events, and the student gets the recording. They're typically 3 hours long, most of them on Saturdays, a few are on Sunday afternoons. College Bound Essentials is the one that kind of touches on this, but a whole lot more. It's a 3-hour version. There's a class just for students who are going to be in the junior year next year. For my current seniors, okay, you're admitted, but now what do you do? There's actually a lot more stuff to be done. There's a money class that talks about what we touched on today, but again, a lot more. And if you have students who are going to be seniors next year, I actually do a bundle where they get each of these 3 classes. They pick the dates that work for them. And it also comes with a little bit more cost efficiency, but all the materials and everything. And those are the 3 that we feel like are most essential to be super prepared for college. the college application process. So just know there's resources available for you, and we have private consultations and that sort of thing. I've got two other associates that work with me. But it's not rocket science, but there's a lot to know, especially just to maximize options. And that's what we're here for. We've been doing this longer than your kids have been alive, and we're going to keep doing it for some time. So just know there's no magic shortcuts or anything like that. We just like for you to make informed decisions, know how to prepare, know what counts and what doesn't count, and to also get through the process as a family with healthy relationships when it's all said and done. So I hope this was helpful for you guys. And if you need anything, the website scholarshipgold.com. And if you want to book a private appointment, let me know. We'll be happy to get you set up. So I hope this was informative. Y'all have a great afternoon and good luck in your college process.